Sustainability Lunchtalk. Can you hear me, Perses? Yes? Perfect. This Lunchtalk will be recorded and uploaded to the sustainability webpage in the coming days. Please be aware that we will not take questions during the presentation, as a dedicated Q&A moment will occur at the end. If a question pops up during the talk, feel free to write it in the chat. My name is Mathieu Gilliron, and I'm project manager in sustainability for the University of Luxembourg. With my colleague Laurent, one of our missions is to raise community awareness on sustainability. To help us, we are surrounded by brilliant experts in teaching, research, or administration. And we also have a network of passionate experts. Today, we invited Perses Bilimoria, founder and CEO of Earthsoul Bioproducts, India's first compostable and biodegradable product manufacturer. He also created the Climate Change Due Diligence Group. The mission is to establish a tactical, financial, and operational plan to address climate change effectively. Media narratives suggest a decline in public trust in science. Recent research tells a different story. A January 2025 study in Nature Human Behavior shows that people maintain strong trust in scientists and scientific methods across most countries. However, there is room for improvement, particularly in how scientists communicate their work transparently to the public. This challenge is crucial in our current information age, where social media and news overload can make it difficult for people to engage meaningfully with scientific findings. This is particularly true for complex issues like climate change, where effective communication between scientists, the public, businesses, and policymakers is essential. Our co-host for the day is Dr. Pranjul Schah. He will moderate this talk. He is the head of Incubator at the University of Luxembourg and the chief architect behind the Incubator and Entrepreneurship Program, which currently supports over 70 innovation projects and startups. We are very excited to have them both today to discuss this topic. And without further ado, Pranjul, the floor is yours. Pranjul, we can't hear you.
Me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, perfect. And do you see my screen?
We see a PowerPoint icon.
That is great. Wait a second. Okay, 1 second. I'm gonna come back here in a second. Okay. Looks like WebEx is gonna crash my computer. Give me 1 second.
It's always a good sign of a good talk when WebEx is crashing.
Yeah. I'm always wondering why we're still not using Teams for. No. But I have the circle of change going on here. Maybe in the interest of time, let me reopen the presentation. Can we quickly maybe then start with Perses? Is that okay with everyone? And then I jump into my presentation after, and then we take the questions together.
Okay, let's do that.
Sure.
So Perses, the floor is yours.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was expecting Pranjul to do the introduction, so I will let
you. But I would like to do that. So Perses and I go now. I think probably 10 years now. Not many know Perses as the way I know him. He has had actually family in Luxembourg for a while, and since that's how we became friends. But since then, Luxembourg appointed him officially the honorary counsel of Luxembourg to India. And in that role, we have explored many partnerships including Cremant. He, of course, was the guy behind the first, let's say, Cremant getting shipped to India, among other things. But not kind of wavering from the topic at hand today, Perses and I have been discussing the topic of climate change, but especially climate repair, which is very close to his heart. And all the different technologies and programs that he's been actively part of for more than 20 years, supporting many different entrepreneurs and technologies globally. And when he took on recently the role of a visiting fellow at Cambridge, those discussions have only intensified, and we are looking into a number of different projects where Perses is already involved in, including new electric motors and gears and many different topics which we just discussed last week. So I'm really glad that today I have the opportunity to bring Perses and to the rest of the university, because he's an amazing resource, and I am sure his presentation will only have cement this feeling that I have with Perses every time I'm talking to him about any topic, but especially climate change. So Perses, floor is all yours.
Thank you, Pranjul. I hope I can live up to the expectations of all of you and for the kind words. But I must start by first saying that I wish to thank Philippe, I wish to thank Matthew, Pranjul, Laurent, and all your team at the University of Luxembourg. I first visited your campus, I think it was around 2017, and since then have been visiting your campus quite frequently, with more zeal and more passion each time I visit your university and the new campus, and it's something which I'm extremely passionate about. The topic today is all about communicating the science to business and industry, with, most importantly, solutions. What we seem to have left out along the way somewhere was that a lot of people and a lot of my students at Cambridge say that we are aware of some of the climate science, but we would like to hear more about solutions. And so that got us thinking, and I created a company called the Climate Change Due Diligence Group Limited, based in the UK, in York, in Northern England. And since then, we have been engaged with a few very large corporations, both in India and in Europe and in the UK, to handhold them with potential due diligence, risk assessment, and solution systems. These are some of the core members of our team. Dr. Michael McCracken, as you can see, was the chief scientific advisor to the White House during the Clinton and the first Bush administration. Dr. Mark Trexler is an IPCC author, and his book on climate risk assessment is being taught at the London School of Economics as we speak. And we're in touch with probably some of the most eminent global scientists, like Sir David King, who I work with on a regular basis, James Hansen, and a whole lot of others. Could we get the next slide, please? Now, one of the most important things I'd like to kick off with is to be able to empower. So my focus is on Gen Z and the millennials, because for me, it's about the legacy issue that we are going to leave. My generation is going to bequeath, in a sense, to you as the next generation. And it brings to my mind an old saying by the North, the Red Indians of America, when they said that we have not inherited the earth from our ancestors. We have borrowed it from our children. And that, for me, is a really important beginning point. And hence, everything that we've created is built around a legacy issue. We come back now to the ABCs of due diligence, which a lot of you might know and some of you might not, which is accept nothing, believe no one, and check everything. Make sure it's current and then connect the dots, particularly in this age, which is not anymore the age of anthropogenic, as I call it, but the age of Trumponogenic, because everything that Trump is doing currently is disarming the entire scientific community of the United States of America, on which a lot of the world science community depends on to get data. And this is going to create an even more onus on the rest of the world to ensure that we can fill into the shoes, hopefully for the next 4 years, and to create a situation going forward. Now, when you do a due diligence, I mean, a lot of you, some of you who are in the business world will probably know that you need to evaluate the findings and what would be a plausible worst case scenario. Can an entity withstand such a scenario, and is it possible to create a viable plan to ensure that it will? Based on the above, we then determine an optimum course of action. Next, please. We then created a concept called Earth Inc., which is a multi-divisional for-profit and not-for-profit corporation that covers all of humanity's interactions with the planet. And if you consider that a team had been retained as consultants to a group of investors contemplating an investment in Earth Inc., we would then work out what we call a pro forma balance sheet. And we call it a pro forma balance sheet because it's simple. We don't really have numbers to equate assets and liabilities in terms of natural resources and natural capital. So we need to have real-time sensors for some elements, and for that we don't have it. So can we have the next slide, please? Okay. So I think we've lost Matthew. If you do a slide, it should show you the balance sheet with the asset and liabilities. I think you should get it if it's in a show mode, in a slide mode. Could you do that in a slide mode?
I only have the PDF version.
Okay. Anyway, okay. So let's skip this. So what we've done is we've created what's called a pro forma balance sheet with assets and liabilities. And if you go to analyze, if you analyze both the assets and liabilities, you will find that at the end of the day, Earth Inc. is a Chapter 11 corporation, which means it's fit for bankruptcy or liquidation. And that's purely because the unfunded liabilities, which is in a sense the carbon, the methane, the CO2 EXs, the nitric oxide, etc., that we're emitting, is building up an unfunded liability, which is then offsetting completely the asset base. So you then have a problem of depleting assets, although we seem to hear every single day that there are new gas oil finds, there are new oil field finds, there are new, in Australia, they've discovered a new iron ore mine, which is probably going to be trillions of dollars worth of iron ore. And, this seems to be going on, and it doesn't stop there. We then go into deep sea mining as well, if it's not bad enough to create mines on onshore facilities. So basically, so when you see that the balance sheet is telling you you're Chapter 11 or you're bankrupt, what are the options that one faced with? You either walk away or you liquidate the remaining assets. And what we devised was we needed to create a tactical, financial, and operational plan to succeed. Next, please. So we all know about the Paris Accord, and we all know that there was a plan to attain net zero by 2050, to be curbing temperatures rising by 1.5. In March, between March 23 and March 24, the average increase itself was 1.58. As we speak, in January 2025, we have breached a mean temperature increase above the pre-industrial benchmark of 1.75, which means that we are headed towards a trajectory of 2 degrees Celsius. Now, in 2025, James Hansen, who's one of the most eminent climate scientists, stated clearly that a breach of 2 degrees temperature is dead, which means that we are probably going to go exponentially and non-linear past 2 degrees. In perhaps it can be even as soon as another 5 years. The plan A has failed and there is no plan B. And that is really strange because in any scenario, you would always get a plan B. So I've spoken to you about this, the theoretical temperature increase and the actual temperature increase. One has to mention over here the amazing work that has been done by the IPCC, the AR 3, 4, 5, 6, and now probably 6 and 7 to come. But what has happened is that the IPCC has worked under limitations. Their data is largely multi-decadal. So they go back, and it's not there. We are not faulting them, but we are saying that's the way the science community works. It's multi-decadal. It's 15 years to 30 years. And for that to happen, if we take those into account, the real-time data needs to be augmented. So that's the most important term that we use now. IPCC data needs to be augmented to bring it up to levels that we are facing currently. And that sadly is not happening, which then makes one believe that the business as usual, which is the fossil fuel companies and the rest of them, have a wonderful sort of scenario where they can, in a sense, continue with business as usual, rather than transitioning into a transformation paradigm. We have the next one, please. So this is, of course, everyone's focus from day one has been carbon dioxide is 80% of the problem. It's not 80% of the problem. As you will see, it's 44% of the problem. And the point here is really critical. It's the short-term gases in the atmosphere, like methane, nitrous oxide, which are tenfold more powerful and have much more influence on GWP, which should be addressed rather than taking CO2 as just a primary source of addressing the problem. So this is a very critical point to make in the science phasing of situations. CO2 is only 44% of the problem. You have a larger problem, 56%, which deals with methane and the rest of it. Now, yeah, we can do the next slide, Matthew, thanks. So emission reductions, we know that, we're talking about EV cars. It's a huge thing now. Everyone's propagating EV and they think that it's going to be a fix. It's not a fix. I think it's probably just going to be a transitional phase, hopefully. There are companies that are putting in billions, if not more, dollars into EVs, including charging and batteries and the whole logistical system. But honestly, to get EVs to most cars on this planet to be EVs, apart from aircrafts and other vessels, etc., is going to take you many, many decades and a lot of more investment, which to my mind is all right. It could be a niche transitional measure, but we need to be looking at other measures seriously. Next, thank you. No, yeah. This is so there are lots of students at Cambridge that talk to me about, you know, plantation. There's a UN movement which said plant 1 trillion trees, and we sat back and did a comprehensive equation with our scientists, and it said that to plant 1 trillion trees, even if it's 1 million trees per hour, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, with no holidays, it would take us 114 years, and you would require an area of land 3 to 6 times that of India. Plus, you need to have at least 20 years or so due to microbial activity, and this could add to the problem. Of course, there are some species of trees which could grow faster and which could sequester CO2 at earlier levels, but as I have seen personally in working with scientists on the ground, the entire tree regime, the entire tree family is extremely complex. So if we think that we have a fix with just planting trees randomly, it's not going to be a quick fix at all. It's going to take many, many, many years, if at all. This is another question. So we are now looking at decarbonization in a sense, which we tend to call distractions, which are in play currently. Carbon engineering is a facility. You can see 2 little guys at the bottom right-hand side. You can see the scale, the massive scale of this plant. And how much does this draw down? Could we have the next slide, please, Matthew? So what would be the drawdown ratio of this plant is 10, we call it 1 million tons per annum. Now, if you put that in context, and if you can see the calculation that we have here, it would need a mind-boggling amount of money, leave alone the finances. You're talking about only 1 million tons when there are gigatons in play, which are being emitted as we speak and which are increasing even more each hour, each day. So these are distractions which are not affordable, but sadly, there are businesses and enterprises which prefer to go down this route. It's something which is cumbersome. So this is a graph which I think is very impactful. It tells you where we are and where we are slated to be in the next 5 to 10 years' time. And you can see that we are on the cusp of breaching a 2 degrees Celsius trigger. And if we do pass the 2 degree Celsius trigger, then it's not something that humanity has dealt with in its lifetime ever. And so we don't know how that's going to play out. So there are big question marks around this. Next, please, Matthew. Yeah, this is interesting. This is a cave which was up in the where they had stalactites and stalagmites. And the next, please. And you could see that the caves, when it was 1.5, they had all the walls and etc. were full of these ice sheets. What happened was eventually that Anton Watts, who found the cave, he did the research. He discovered that the mean planetary temperature at that time was a mere 1.5. But why did these caves form? Why was there so much calcite and no stalactite and stalagmites or columns? So this created a question mark in his mind. The answer then came in 2021 when NOAA issued an Arctic report card, and there was unanimous agreement, very unusual for scientists, that the weather patterns in the Arctic would progressively change from snow to rain at a mean planetary temperature increase of 1.5 degrees. The reason was probably that it had already occurred as we speak. Next, please. So at an increase of 1.35, it rained for 3 days straight on the summit of Greenland. And the energy in that rain was equivalent to 8,000 Hiroshima bombs. Why? Because 1 cc of rain there is sufficient latent heat to raise the temperature of 1 cc of water from 0 to 80 Celsius. So 6.3 gigatons of rain contains energy around 8,000 Hiroshima bombs. Some of you might have read recently that there was an atmospheric river situation, an event that occurred in the Arctic a few weeks back, where it pumped in some 600,000 tons of ice, all in a span of 2 or 3 days. And this was an event which actually helped because it created a layer on the existing ice sheets, which hopefully then will prevent rest of ice melting as rapidly as it could. Could we have the next slide, please? So these are some pictures. I'm not going to talk too much about this because we already know that when the Arctic is melting, you have emissions of methane, which can be disastrous. The permafrost melts. I raised the issue of methane with the IPCC chair in 2015, and he mentioned to me that, Mr. Bilimoria, we will deal with methane when the time is right. But I raised the flag in 2015. People are looking at it now and trying to see if we can address that situation. I'm not sure whether we can really, but we can go to the next slide, please. Yeah, so Matthew, the next slide, please. I want to now go away from much of the science. We all know what's happening. Just to put it into perspective, all of you must have heard of the forest fires in Los Angeles recently. We know that between May and September 2023, the Canadian wildfires emitted 2,500 billion tons of CO2. That's the Canadian wildfires. 2,536 billion tons of CO2, which is, for the information of everyone, the equivalent of 1 year's fossil fuel emissions of a country like India. And it happened within just 3 or 4 months. These are the sort of situations that we now have to deal with. Next, please. So we hear about decarbonization, we hear about net zero, and we term these as distractions. And why do we call them distractions? Because it's simple. Net zero deals with anthropogenic emissions only. It's not enough, because what's happening is, what we have done is we have actually deliberated, in a sense. We have cut down the capacities of the natural ecosystems like the Arctic, the Antarctic, the Amazon forest, the boreal forests, our oceans. They had a natural capacity to absorb CO2, CO2EX. What we have done is we have systematically reduced the capability of them to function in their natural condition and environment. And what that has done is that a lot of these natural ecosystems, which were earlier sequesters of CO2 and CO2EX, have now become net emitters of CO2EX. So it's wrong to consider just anthropogenic emission, but we need to also consider the natural ecosystems which have now flipped, which are emitting CO2 and methane, to come into the whole equation. And if you do that, and if you really want to get a right number, you should call it net neutral, because that's where you balance out the natural emissions with anthropogenic emissions. I think this is critical going forward to anyone who wants to do a level playing field calculation of CO2 or CO2 EX levels. Thank you, Matthew. Next, please. Right. So we know what happened at all the COPs. We know what's been happening at all the COPs. It's become more of a party place, a place for networking. There's been a lot of discredit, but at the same time, we can understand that to have 3,000 or 4,000 negotiators at a table agreeing to something about science makes it very, very difficult. Next, please. So this is now an important. It's one of the last slides that I'll show. It's a very important slide because it shows you exactly where we are headed, and where we could be headed. Will Stephan was a colleague of ours. He passed away 2 years back. Brilliant scientist from Australia, and we put this all together, and this is where we are headed. If you want a stabilized Earth, we need to be doing things completely differently from what they are currently, or else we go business as usual. We go into a hothouse Earth, and that's where we are headed as we speak. Next, please. That's the situation. 1.58. It's now 1.75. So you can see how progressively nonlinear exponential increases are already in play. Next, please. Right. So this brings us to my topic, and what Pranjul mentioned about is intervention and repair. To my mind, it's one of the most critical things, and this is where we define the problem clearly. Either we intervene and repair, and when I say intervene and repair, it means we intervene and repair our natural ecosystems, which is the Arctic. So we are working on a project with Cambridge University and a company called Realize, where we are looking to refreeze the Arctic. There have already been 3 expeditions that have happened with Realize, which is a company, where they're using underwater drones to create thin ice sheets above existing ice so that during the summer months, it can protect the existing ice sheets. That's one. We are doing an intervention with our oceans called marine biomass regeneration, which is creating nutrient flakes from rice husk, lignin, and red mud. These flakes then are dispersed on the surface of the seas, where they then trickle down over a year or more, release nutrients, which then create a bloom, a phytoplankton bloom or a diatom bloom, which brings back acidified oceans back to life, but also at the same time, perhaps absorbing, sequestering some amount of CO2, etc. So there are various intervention measures. We've heard a lot about, SAI, stratospheric aerosol injection, marine cloud brightening. These are all typically known as geoengineering. There has been a lot of discussion and discourse on geoengineering and how it's been discredited quite a bit. But honestly, if I like to equate it in the sense that you go to a doctor and he tells you, you have a problem with your kidney and you have a problem with your liver is not functioning well. So, but what he won't tell you is that of the 4 arteries in the heart, 3 are blocked. And if you put stents, all your body ecosystems could start functioning back to some kind of normalcy, which means your kidney, your liver, the rest of your system would start working once all your arteries are cleaned up and working. It's the same thing with our planet. If we do not address the system, we do not address on intervening and repairing our natural ecosystems, which are giving us the life that we've been living over so many billions of years, I'm afraid any amount of decarbonization, any amount of net zero, any amount of what we do is going to have no effect at all. Next, please. So this is where we come in to say that either we intervene to buy the time and regroup, or we unquestionably experience that we've actually lost the plot. And it's really important to understand that when I talk to a lot of business and industry people, I say that you're spending billions and billions of dollars on decarbonization, on transforming mobility, your energy, your mobility, your healthcare. If you were to put even 1/10 of what you're investing in decarbonization into solutions for intervention and repair, in terms of maybe refreezing the Arctic, maybe the Antarctica, working with the oceans. There are things like seaweed plantation, kelp plantations. There are so many solutions that you can have to bring back our existing ecosystems together with decarbonization. I'm not for a moment saying that you need to shut down decarbonization, to shut down adaptation, to shut down resilience measures, to shut down mitigation. But yes, all of them have a role to play. But to my mind, and to a whole lot of global scientists, if we do not intervene and repair our natural ecosystems, there is nothing that we can do on the face of this earth to solve the problem. And that's where we basically come from. Is there another slide, Matthew? Okay, so that's pretty much it for me. I'm happy to take questions. I must also add here that, you know, technology is advancing so rapidly in every single phase that we see, so we are capable, technology, of transitioning transformationally. We can transform and transition. There's no question about it. The problem is we don't have the luxury of time. And what intervention and repair does is it gives us the time to transition and transform our lifestyles to a sustainable form of living on a planet together with nature. And that's where I'd like to end. Thank you.
Thank you, Perses. I'm going to now try quickly one more time. I hope you can see my presentation.
Yeah.
Perfect. So I'm going to give all of you some time to think of the questions for Perses and put them in the chat. Meanwhile, I'll take 7 minutes of your time briefly to introduce you to the incubator. So University of Luxembourg Incubator, I don't know how many of you know, but because we routinely get questioned, is it the Technoport? No, actually, believe it or not, the University of Luxembourg has an incubator. We are open since 2018, when the Prime Minister and the Rectorate actually kicked off a journey that we started. So it's not the most, I tell people it's not the most beautiful building from the outside, and we have found a way to hide it behind the skip and the National Archives. But from the inside, it's a very, very creative space where people like to come in and work, and a lot of our students find themselves learning about entrepreneurship and building their career paths in the entrepreneurial journeys through the programs that we build. So our goal from the start has been to support venture creation at the university. So we support the students, researchers, and staff members actually to build companies and then leverage the research or the know-how that they're developing at the university during their studies or as part of their research, and turn that into business cases, like interventions in many cases, so intervening in Luxembourg. So we have a small team. I don't know if you've met some of them in different forum, but we try as a small team to actually support the entire university's entrepreneurial ecosystem in trainings, in terms of mentoring, and also guiding the young entrepreneurs in how to go about doing business in Luxembourg. Just to briefly talk to you about what our concept is, we don't believe that everybody at the university needs to just start building companies. I think it's more important that as a university, we support entrepreneurial, trainings and so give the skill set to university students, researchers, so that when they are facing challenges in their career in the professional domain, they can bank on some of their skills. What we routinely also notice is that university courses provide fundamental, deep knowledges in different fields, may it be architecture, may it be mathematics, but very quickly within your career, you will be asked to actually, in a professional setting, lead a team or handle budgets and accounts. And these are things that project managers need to handle, which are not typically the skill set that we are at the moment offering. And I know there are great plans in this direction, and we're proud that we'll be able to also play some part here. But we expect that a big chunk of our students and researchers will enter the professional world. But we notice time and time again that a lot of them actually want to carve their own journey, and they use their skill set actually to build ventures on their own, and we're glad to be able to support them here. So our strategy is fairly simple, is inspire as many dormant entrepreneurs and wake them up as possible. So I would expect annually we have about 1,200 to 1,500 students participants who take part in different programs with us. We expect about 10% to come back and say, we have a plan or an idea or some research that we would like to leverage and turn it into a business plan. So then we support them in this journey. And then when they decide to actually build a company, we give them a desk here at the incubator so they can register their company and get supported by our mentors. And this, of course, takes place into a whole range of different programs that they are available from all the different stages, from fundamental trainings to competitions to master classes to summer schools, and then also an acceleration program which helps them to actually go out and raise funds. All of this information is available on the university's website, so I'm not going to dive much into that. But all in all, I want to highlight that more and more students and researchers at the university are taking this journey. They're thinking about it. We have in the last 7 years supported close to 6,000 participants now and leveraged the whole ecosystem with 300 plus mentors coming in and actually supporting these entrepreneurs and provided them opportunities to learn skill set beyond what their standard curriculum provides them. And this has resulted, of course, in a large number of companies, which always people at the university are surprised when I tell them that all of these companies have actually come out from your peers. And you can see the whole diversity of them. We're actually, working in many, many different fields. A lot of green and social ventures are also actually present at the University Incubator, and we're supporting deep tech topics, also sports ventures or AI, legal tech. We're covering a lot of different domains. So one ask for all of you is to go to University of Luxembourg Incubator, click on the startups tag and see how many of these startups actually you are aware of. And you will be surprised to find what kind of things actually happening at the university. Students and researchers are actually actively playing a role in. So all in all, we have now over the years supported about 75 plus projects, which are companies registered with us. This has created about 200 plus jobs in terms of founders and the extended teams. These companies, some of them have gone on and raised millions in funding. Some of them have relocated to other continents and expanded businesses in 4 different continents. And I think this is just a way that the third mission of the university, which is the impact, is actually taking shape day in, day out at the incubator. Now, I don't want to take too much time, but there are some journeys definitely worth sharing. So I want to talk about them today, and some really linked to the topic of today. These are, of course, 2 which I think many of you already know about, which is one is Margaret, where the prince is actually now part of the board, and he's actually here in the building quite often, actually supporting one of the companies which is taken early math learning solution now to Latin America, to Africa, to Asia, and expanding very rapidly. But another interesting company is Golden Me, which was awarded last year the Digital Inclusion Prize. They are actually supporting elderly education or shaping digital learning skills within the elderly or the silver economy in Luxembourg. What I want to though talk about is 4 interesting stories which may not be on your radar. Some successes, but some failures as well, because, you know, part of the journey of what we're trying to do here with the planet is that we'll have to take risk, we'll have to try things. We just don't know what's going to work, but if we don't try, we will never know. One of the companies, believing it or not, was actually announced as the Paper Jam Startup of the Year. Food for All wanted to actually reduce food waste in supermarkets. And at one point of time, they basically were present in practically all supermarkets in Luxembourg. Eventually, the supermarkets figured out on to produce less or put less products on the shelf. So they started generating less waste. So they were their own worst enemy, because there was no waste left for them to sell in this case. And then eventually the supermarkets actually decided that they didn't need their service. But they did a great job in terms of bringing food waste to the attention of the main topic in Luxembourg, and were awarded for this, of course, the Startup of the Year by Paper Jam. Another interesting company is like change can happen in many small formats, was Honeyverse, where they were trying to actually to sustain the art of beekeeping, which is of course a big part of course climate, sustaining the climate and the food safety and security in Eastern Europe, because more and more beekeepers were actually shutting down their operations. And some of you might see those bags on the right hand side, might remember them, because they actually prepared the Christmas gift for all UL staff members in 22. So all of us received a bag from Honeyverse, and that's actually was a company from the university. And since then, they have actually helped at least 5 or 6 farms, large-scale farms, to continue their operations in sustainable beekeeping. Now, this is a very interesting company that not many know in, but the largest and the fastest growing company in Luxembourg, which is putting solar panels on the roof of homes in Luxembourg. Currently, they have about a pipeline, about 300 houses, was started by 2 of our PhD students who started putting solar panels on houses in the weekends for friends and family. And then they realized that this could be an opportunity. And 2 years back, of course, now the economy minister, but at that time he was the Minister of Small and Business Administration, came to visit Let's Green Renewables, who have basically started this company out of nothing. So basically, it's also to give you a message that sometimes to do something, you don't need to hide behind, oh, I don't have funding, or I don't have, means. You could just start with your PhD projects or some, topics, just try it out, and it might just work out. Last year, they did about 4 million in revenue. So you can see that even in small Luxembourg, there are opportunities in this topic to actually actively get involved in. And the last project that I want to talk about, and this is actually a very interesting story, where a student from Masters in Entrepreneurship and Innovation decided to actually recycle material and turn that into sustainable jewelry. And this has been a fascinating product, which he self-funded. Since then, he's been on Paris Fashion Week. He supported, Miss World pageant, competitions. He has been invited by Netflix to talk about a series partnership. So talk about maybe future versions of Game of Thrones and stuff. He might have some jewelry supporting there. But what is most notable and important is that just last year, he actually opened a first shop in the heart of Luxembourg on number 1 Grand Rue. And so if you are next time passing by there, you will see a very nice, sustainable, handmade jewelry store started by a university alum, where you can actually get a red carpet entry and feel proud of how Luxembourg university students are actually making the mark on sustainability. So these were 4 stories that I wanted to leave you with. I just wanted to show you that entrepreneurship comes in many different forms, and it's been practiced very widely at the university incubator. So if you have ideas, I know there are already some of our startups in the room who are already actively working with us. But if there are any other ideas that you are just contemplating and not sure how to go about it, feel free to reach out to us, and I'll be happy to have that chat with you and see what we can do together. Okay, with that, we want to dive straight into questions. So, Perses, great talk. I think it was scary, but also alarming and intriguing that we need to do something. And we have some questions here that I want to really dive into. Is that to achieve net neutral, would you then need a case-by-case study to reflip emitter sites to sinks, given the diversification of these sites? Or is there a general approach to different sites? What do you propose here?
Well, if you're dealing with natural ecosystems, Pranjul, and I have been hands-on with a project with oceans since 2014, which started at National Institute of Oceanography in Goa under the aegis of the Ministry of Earth Sciences. And now we have a consortium which includes the University of Hawaii, the University of Southern California, the University of Cape Town, the University of Melbourne, the University of South Korea. So it's now built into a consortium. But when I'm in meetings with the scientists over a number of years, we understand how complex nature is. A solution in the Arabian Sea or the Indian Ocean is no solution in the Pacific, is no solution in the Atlantic, is no solution in the Southern Oceans. Each part of the world, each ocean has its own intrinsic ecosystems, and hence, you know, even to address the problems as much as we are hopeful we can, it's going to take a lot of time. It's the same with refreezing the Arctic, is what we are seeing over the last 2 years. You're going to need billions of dollars. You're going to need a lot of time, at least 8 to 9 years. And it's so nature is extremely complex, and I don't think there's any quick one fix to everything. But if we don't embark upon what we have to do now already, this should have happened many decades ago, but assume it hasn't, but we still can kick off. We still can kick off to slow the pace of the tipping. So we call these tipping points. So if we can scale down or reduce the speed of the tipping points of our natural ecosystems, in that sense, we can effectively decarbonize natural ecosystems much more efficiently than we can do for the, say, the fossil fuel ecosystems and the rest of it.
Thank you, Perses. We have a question more on the university side, that EU universities are now more and more adopting an internal rule that we will not partner up with organizations which are not environment friendly or social friendly. What do you think in terms of how can this be made, or should this be made as a mandatory, rule, and how should we go about that?
Well, I think this should it's a process of evolution. I do not believe that pushing anything down anyone's throat would make it an effective pathway to a solution. I think solutions spring from initiatives that come from within individuals, from within universities, from the entire ecosystem of the university itself. So what I would propagate is if a university can create an ecosystem around sustainability, around the research of working together with nature, I think then you will have much more success. Not just success, but then you will see that there's a willingness for everyone to engage, because then they feel part of the entire game and the entire solution.
We don't hear you.
Sorry, there's a question about the permafrost melting and the dormant pathogens which would basically
Yes.
be thawing,
Yes.
and the dangers around it. And
Yes.
Are there any solutions? What is being done around that?
Yeah, so I have one of the topics that I work around, interestingly, that this came up, is AMR, antimicrobial resistance. And there's something called ARG, which is antimicrobial genetics, which comes also from releases of genetic material and microbiomes from melting of permafrosts, from melting of even surfaces on land which have been sort of degraded in a sense. And so AMR, antimicrobial resistance, and ARG is something which is going to be a very, very big problem, because these are pathogens which are released, which might be millions of years old, which humanity has never dealt with ever. And it could throw up serious challenges on the well-being and health of humanity on this planet. Not just humanity, it could be animals, it could be mammals, it could be everyone would be inflicted with this. So yes, it's clearly a threat,
Interestingly, we have a startup here at the incubator, which has been or was until recently here, but now they have moved up and to another incubator. But they are actually starting to dive into this topic, and there is actively a lot of research going on in antimicrobial resistance specifically.
Yeah. In fact, there's a very, very large institute in London coming up called the Fleming Institute, where I'm going to be a part of, and that is being formed by Lord Darcy. And there is a lot of work that they intend to do with AMR, in terms of checking their footprint as well as solutions towards it. It's known as the Fleming Institute. Yeah.
Okay. I think I'll ask quickly, Matthew. I know it's
yes. Go on.
Yeah, the last one that I think people understand now the sense of urgency, and the question is, what is the timeline? How many years do we realistically have to develop interventions and solutions? Can you give a number, Perses, and then let's.
Well, I'm not sure whether even our creator has that in mind or position. It's something which, nature is unpredictable. Nature does what she wants to do, will do what she wants to do when she wants to do. It's not something that we can even deliberate on. All we can do is ensure that we are, as we were created to be symbiotic with nature, we need to ensure that we are on that path of symbiosis with our natural environment. That's the only thing that's going to save us all, if at all.
Thank you, Perses. I think Matthew wants to end the talk here. So
yeah, we have a tradition to finish at 30, so I'll try to do the best. Thanks a lot, Perses. Thanks a lot, Pranjul, for your insight and expertise on this important topic. We hope you all enjoyed the presentation and discussion. The record will be made available online on the sustainability page of the University of Luxembourg. Before closing the WebEx, I invite you all to our next Sustainability Lunchtalk on May 21 on the subject Emergent Geographical and Social Processes in the Solar Energy Transition. It will be presented by Professor Catherine Jones from the Department of Geography and Spatial Planning at the University of Luxembourg, and Professor Philip Dale from the Department of Physics and Material Science. For the first time, we'll have two hosts. They will present together because they are working together on this subject. Don't forget to visit the sustainability webpage of the university to learn more about the coming lunch talks and to subscribe to our sustainability letter. We have more and more events, more and more activities on campus to learn about sustainability, but also to be active in sustainability. So I really encourage you to visit the web pages and to contact us. Thanks a lot again, and have a nice day.